All righty. I'm gonna do a screen share. Can everybody see my screen?
I can see it.
All righty. So today is October 27th, 2024, 5 p.m. Eastern. I am Louise Campbell Anthony, the affiliate director here at Peacekeeping Task Force. And this is our first strategy session under the Peacekeeping Task Force to get our American government recognized in America and across the globe. So I'm going to ask you all first, a little housekeeping, put your name in the chat, the state you're on, and if you are already on the strategy task force, you can state that. If you want to be on the strategy task force, you can state that as well. So I will start and open up with who have already confirmed with me that they wanted to be on the strategy task force, give you an idea of what our focus is going to be, what this meeting is going to cover, and plan for our next meeting. In the chat, I put a lot of documents already. Hopefully you all can go ahead and download them as we talk about them. I didn't want to bombard you with everything, but there's a lot that we're going to be doing. So the first thing that you can download is the Peacekeeping Task Force Strategy Task Force Session 1 outline is there. And that's what I'm going to start with. So for right now, on the Strategy Task Force is myself. I'm on Ohio. I will be moving next month to Illinois. We have Jessica. She's on Louisiana. And correct me if I'm wrong about any of this. Jessica Gathings on Louisiana. Boyd Adams, who's on Louisiana. Marvin Roberts, who's on Texas. And Bart Draeger, who's on Oklahoma. Now, all those are on the task force, but then we have an advisory group. This is the group I reached out to who said, well, they can't commit the time to be on the task force, but they do want to assist. So I asked them if they will serve in an advisory capacity. And Doug Minnick on California agreed to do that, and Lavelle Giddings on North Carolina agreed to do that. So if you're here and you want to get involved, but not have to attend all the meetings and things like that, and you just want to be in an advisory capacity, well, I can put you on that. And what does advisory capacity mean? That means we might have a meeting and we're planning some things. Then I will send you the replay of the meeting, and I might call you or message you and ask you for your input on something. Because these people, specific people I did reach out to because I knew that they had some type of insight in some field or in some area of government that I wanted, to see if they wanted to provide that insight. So some of them people are on the advisory committee. Yes, Raveh?
Okay, I don't see any docs in the chat. I think like when we sign in, we can only see it from the time we sign in.
All righty. Let me
Thank
see
you.
if I can help there.
Yeah, that's correct. We'll only see what's posted after we log in.
Yes. Okay.
Well, I will do it again.
Thank you.
All righty. And I'll just post as I go along then, just to save in time. The chat. I did all that homework trying to be on top of things. Didn't know about that little bit. I wonder, can I repost it?
You probably can. I don't know.
It.
But...
I'm gonna copy it and paste it.
Yes, you can copy it.
Y'all can see that.
Yeah.
I'm gonna copy and paste this one. I did 2 of them. Did y'all see those 2?
Yes. Got it.
I'm gonna copy and paste.
Now I got 3 of them. What, transfer gov, strategy task. Okay. Yeah, they're coming through. Okay.
Copy paste this one. I got to keep up with which ones I'm doing. So those who's joining us now, I'm copying and pasting back in all the documents that I copied and pasted in there before the meeting started, which you all can't see. So let me see if I can get them in there. This one here. And then go ahead and put your name in the chat and the state you're on. I think that's all of them right now. And if you are already on the strategy task force, or if you want to be on the strategy task force, go ahead and put that in there. And I also explained that some people do not want to commit to being on the task force to have to be at the meetings, but they will want to offer some counsel in an advisory capacity. So if you want to do that, you can do that too. Let me try to. All right. All right, so that's the introduction of the people who are on the task force. Now, the primary focus of this group, we will strategize on how to bring forth the directives that our fiduciary has made of our federal employees, their state-of-state franchises, the government corporations and agencies, and the banks as the employers. We will formalize a plan of action to get full cooperation and/or capitulation to transfer the governance of each state into the hands of the state assembly and into the hands of each county assembly. The county where the state capital is located will be the physical location where the strategy task force will execute this strategy plan initially. The remaining counties will be facilitated by their respective state assembly. So let me break that down for anybody who might be new to the whole project that I'm working on. It's called the American Government Resurgence Project. That's the name of it. You will see 2 implementation guides I put in the chat. How it came about is I presented this, what I call my international public notice postcard campaign to the international think tank. And they adopted it and wanted to bring it forth to all the state assemblies for the state assemblies to be able to utilize and get the message out about the crime that's been committed and perpetrated upon Americans and what the American government is doing to recoup all of the assets for the American people on behalf of everybody. So once they adopted that, I came up with a part of the American Resurgence Project. It's a 6-phase project. There is a part in there, phase 3, which is where you all come in, that is going to require us to get out and talk to the executives of these states, like the governor, the secretary of state, and those types of people. So it was the peacekeeping task force I thought was responsible for those types of areas. So that's how I came to the peacekeeping task force to introduce them to my phase 3 of the project and ask them if they would take it on, if they thought it was a good idea, if it will be effective in getting us the recognition that we deserve. They liked the idea. They asked me to come aboard to spearhead the idea and to bring it forward. So that's how we got to where we are now. And that's phase 3 of the project. Now in the chat, let me see if I can find it here. This thing here is on the top. I don't know where to move it at. You'll see this document here, the American Government Resurgence Project, 6-phase project. This is the description of the whole entire project in full, all 6 phases. Why you see yellow is because it is being updated as things develop. As the think tank meets, we make changes, we offer other ideas and make more changes. That's why you see things in yellow. It's been updated constantly. You'll see the same thing in the next implementation guide for phase 3 only, where you'll see yellow. Things are going to be changing, especially now that the strategy task force has come together and started the first session. You all going to help me put together an effective strategy, an effective plan. We're going to write out and execute. That's what's going to happen in the next implementation guide phase and implementation guide 2. I'm giving you implementation guide 1 so that you can become aware of what the entire picture is for the whole resurgence project. Our focus is going to be on analyzing this project as we move forward with it to see how effective it is and how effective we can make it and improve upon it. Phase 1 and 2, the think tank is the overseers of that, and they are the ones who put forth the ideas of how to put phase 1 and phase 2 together. We are in pre-launch phase with those two phases. Phase 3, we're beginning now. Now, I wrote all of this already out just according to what I'm thinking, what my vision is. But what I want to do now in phase 3 is get what you're thinking and what your vision is and combine them both and develop the project, develop phase 3 even more so that we can make it an effective strategy and get out there and do what we got to do to get the recognition that we deserve. So that's the transference of government strategic plan, phase 3. This document right here is just over that. Phase 1 and 6 is the other document. All 3 of those is covered, but phase 3 is just over what we're about to do right now, this entire document. So when I'm going to move into what this entire document is going to cover as a, generally speaking, an outline of it. When you move down here, the outline that we're going to go over here today is these 4 highlighted parts: tier 1, tier 2, tier 3, tier 4. Now, if you have questions, I'm gonna ask you to put them in the chat because we're gonna get to them. I cannot see the chat right now, but I will pause after I finish a certain section and try to look in the chat to see if we have some questions, and I can try to answer them as we go along. We also are on a time frame. I don't know how long I have you all. I want to respect your time. Usually our meetings are an hour and a half, but I didn't schedule anything in particular. I see a hand. Can you go ahead and ask your question? No, nobody got a question? Okay. All right, so I'm going to tentatively say the meeting is going to be over at 6:30 because that's an hour and a half. If we decide we want to go over that, then we can all decide that together. But that's my targeted end time.
I see Kathy Kreidler's hand. Is that who you're referring to?
Yeah, I was, but I'm logged in as her, so I don't know.
Oh, okay.
I don't know what that's about.
Hey,
Maybe touching
hey,
my
Louise.
mouth. Yes.
I'm on my I'm driving, so that's why I'm not
Oh,
participating because I'm driving. I can't do
you pushed
anything
that
except
button.
listening.
Okay.
I could have. Who knows? My phone's rolling around. So sorry.
All right. All right. All right. So let's go over the 4 tiers to the actual strategy. It's on here. And you all gonna take this home and look over it because it's like 22 pages. We don't have time to go look over all this here today. But we're gonna go over the overview real quick. Once I find where it is. I thought I clicked down to it. I think I clicked too far down. Here we go. So phase 3, transference of government, 4-tiered strategic plan overview. Those who've seen this before will see that it has changed already from the ideas that I had at first to what we have now. And I'm pretty sure they'll probably change some more once you all give your input here. So for right now, the approach is this. In phase 3, we're going to start off with strategy task force sessions. This is session 1. Of course, we'll have more after this as we schedule them. But the tier 1, what the strategy task force sessions are for, it says in order to accomplish a smooth, peaceful transference of government from our federal United States government services providers, their state and county franchises back to us, their employers, we as a federation of 50 United States need to properly, professionally, and peacefully negotiate and direct this transference. This requires that the 50 states, or at least the majority of the states, first meet and debate amongst ourselves to agree and write out our plan of execution. In this plan, we will outline how we will address and direct our employees on the what's and the how's this transference will happen and how we will address and deal with their crimes. The states will need to coordinate and launch this plan with unified action as a federation in full force for it to be most effective at achieving our desired result, which is recognition. This strategy task force will host and facilitate these sessions and invite all state assemblies to participate and help develop and plan out the execution of each component to our transference of government strategic plan. The actions of our head of state and the fiduciary and the international public notices will be used as our guide and our position of authority. Now, when I started off with this, initially, the trajectory came from the federal partners from that end, but now it's not coming from there because Anna has made some progress and has established certain things at this point. So it's going to come from actually the state level. So from the strategy task force sessions, we here are going to facilitate the development of the plan, but we're doing that as a service to the assemblies because we can't do anything really in and above ourselves. We're doing this so that the assemblies can have a focused plan so that they can execute on each state and on each county. So tier two to this strategy is to secure the capitals. Now this is the original idea I presented to Joe and Kathy at the beginning. I think this is very important that we do. Secure the capitals. We want to strategically establish control over their capitals, quote unquote, which is in actuality our capitals. We will give particular specific attention to our nation's capital, Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. To do this, we will elect and train county sheriffs in the counties where the state capital is located. Also possibly elect state coroners in their respective states since they have the power over governors. Based on our fiduciary's recent declaration of land law and the change in the de facto county sheriff's capacity, we will solicit, enlist, and train the county sheriffs of the de facto to assist in their constitutional capacities in our transference of government plan in accordance with our fiduciary's directives. We will inform and notice these corporate head executives, meaning the county sheriffs, the governor. Specifically, I have the governor and the state's secretary of state, those two offices. We will inform and notice them of the treason of their principals on the federal level and of the crimes that they may be complicit with if they fail to cooperate and capitulate to our peaceful transference of government directives. Now, this is going to take some tact, I know. We will provide the directives via a criminal information or notice of treason presentment. Two specific demands we will make at this time. One demand will be that we provide the de facto with a peace flag and require that they raise it above Old Glory on the Capitol buildings. The second demand will be to require that they erect a billboard in the courtyard of the Capitol's lawn and direct the public to correct their political status. The first counties that we will initiate our first contact across the nation will be the county that has the state Capitol building located in it. We will utilize both positive and negative public pressure to get capitulation from the governors and secretaries of state to cause them to issue orders from higher up down the chain of command to their subordinates to comply. Now, the county sheriffs, both the de facto and de jure, have already been empowered by Anna to arrest and charge any of those people of treason or misprision of treason and other crimes for warring against the Declaration of Independence by their act of refusal. That's the secure the capital section tier. Tier 3. After that, or during that, these are not necessarily in sequential order. Depends on how effective we're doing from we're being at one step to the next step. We'll have to be fluid that way. So tier 3, transference of government negotiations. So as the strategy sessions are taking place, we'll have to finally draft and develop a transition plan in the collaboration between the strategy task force, the nationwide outreach think tank, and the state assemblies. Will all be given input on this plan. It will be designed to give remedies to the public via a one fell swoop list of demands. That should be in the chat. I put that there. That's one thing it's going to accomplish. The other thing it's going to accomplish is to install our de jure government's presence in all our public buildings. That means to bifurcate one section for Americans and the other sections for our subcontractors. Another thing it's going to seek to accomplish, to acquire the custody of the state trust and to require that they implement specific features in their U.S. governments and policies and databases that will enable American state nationals to access our rights, remedies, and exemptions when we're interfacing with those corporations. The complete execution of this transference plan will take years, of course, but we'll begin with a one fell swoop list of demands, with each demand accompanied by an autographed directive by our fiduciary and any other necessary officers who need to sign that. I think it's important to have signatures on documents that we present to the de facto. For me, whenever I get something from the government, I look and see who signed it. That gives credibility to the document in my eyes. So that's why I got that section there, which we will require to take place immediately. That's the one fell swoop list of demands. These negotiations to formulate a timeline and deadlines for this rollout of these directives will be initiated in follow-up meetings after the Tier 2 Secure the Capital interactions, which means at Tier 2 Secure the Capital interactions, of course, at that point, we're going just to ask for those two demands. After that, the next set of interactions will be about the rollout of the one fell swoop list of demands. Tier 4, capitulation of government county tours. Now, after this transition of the government strategic plan is finalized, the combined forces of the county sheriffs, the state assembly militia, these are the people I think are the responsible parties to carry out something like this. Correct me if I'm wrong. So the county sheriffs, the state assembly militia, the state county continental marshal, and the liaisons, PKTF liaisons, will plan a respective follow-up meetings with the governor, the state secretary of state, to require their cooperation and capitulation to the directives and the one fell swoop list of demands. These are the same group of people who I think are the responsible parties for Tier 2 when we address them for the securing the capital demands, those two. Same group of people. Subsequent to this meeting, the state assemblies will organize a tour of every county across their state to execute the transference of government plan. Corporate officers who refuse can be arrested and charged with treason, misprision of treason, etc., by county sheriffs for their refusal and warn against the Declaration of Independence by their act of refusal. And I keep saying the word warring against Declaration of Independence. I want to emphasize that because our focus and our objective is to put forth in the public's view that our law, our authority is coming from the Declaration of Independence, not the Constitution. So when those political offices refuse to abide by what the American government is directing them to do, then they are essentially warring against the Declaration of Independence. And that's the treason that I'm referring to here. That's the overall strategic plan for phase 3 that I want us to fine tune, to question, to offer more input and different angles to how we can actually get this accomplished. These harassments of American state nationals in jail, having to carry driver's licenses and paying mortgages and no access to their credit, I want to stop that with this strategy. That's where I want us to go with this. As you're looking at this, I want you to ask yourself, well, can we get from here to there using that strategy? That's what I want you to ask yourself. That's the overall overview. Now I'm going to go over the details of how I think we can execute this. And forgive me for my little, it might seem kind of archaic how I write things out. I just don't have time to be beautiful because it takes more energy. I just want to get the thoughts on the paper. How can I execute those 4 tiers that I just explained? This is what I've come up with. Phase 3 transference of government strategic execution overview. Now, I already mentioned the entire 6 phases. Well, it actually starts with those 6 phases. Starting here on the left side, I don't know if you can see my mouse. Starting here with the international public notice postcards. The public notice postcards are actually the start off of the whole plan. And let me read to you what's on that postcard. If you can see that. One of the main things that's on this postcard here is at the bottom. This is not a solicitation. This is an approved lawful notice from the American government. Visit claimyourinheritance.info. The back of it says the same thing. Then it says, this international public notice is to inform you that the foreign United States government has criminally converted your political status from an American to that of a foreign citizen. They have impersonated you and substituted themselves as your American government for over 160 years. In so doing, they stole your identity, your credit, your gold, and your land assets. The Federation of States, DBA, the United States of America Unincorporated, 1776, has liened the foreign United States Governmental Services Corporations for breach of contract and fraud, and is recovering these assets on behalf of the American people. To claim the birthright and financial assets that you are owed, contact your local American State Assembly to correct your political status. Anna's already approved all that wording. I want us to lead out in public with this message about the crime and what we're doing about the crime. That highlights our claim that government, the only reason for government is to protect the people and their assets. That is the message I want to lead with. How are we protecting the people and their assets? And this is why the wording of the postcard is specific to addressing that. So that postcard goes out, and this is how the assemblies begin the process of getting out there in public and letting the public know what has been happening. Now, some assemblies already expressed that they don't, they're not ready to do postcards. But like I told them, you can do whichever kind of postcard campaign. No, I shouldn't say postcard, I keep saying that. You can do any type of international public notice campaign that you want. There's 4 types that we developed, the think tank has developed in the process. One is, of course, the postcards themselves, purchasing them and mailing them out. There's another one where you can purchase email lists and mail them out and email them out. And there's another one where you can do community canvassing. Yes, you have to buy the postcards. That's an expense. But community canvassing, y'all get the postcards, and you go out there in your community and you distribute them that way. So whichever way you choose to do it, those are the different avenues. There's 2 types of postcards. That's why there's 4 in total. With this phase 1, that's phase 1 of the entire American Resurgence Project. With that phase 1, you follow up that phase 1 with a public meeting. You invite these people to a public meeting. You'll put your posters, you'll put a legal notice in the newspaper where you're going to say there's going to be a public meeting, and you're going to hold a meeting. The first place that this starts out is in the county where the state capital is located. That's the first postcard or international public notice campaign. Then we move into the strategy task force session, tier 1. So now, while the assemblies have started their campaigns and getting out there in public, holding public meetings, specifically, we're just talking about this one county in their state that has the state capital. The strategy task force is holding their sessions. And we're coming up with the strategy of how we're going to get the capitulation or the cooperation of the state governor and the secretary of state. While the assembly is reaching out in that particular county, they're going to find a person in that county who would like to run for sheriff, a person in that county who would like to run for coroner. Coroner because they have the authority over governors. Sheriff because they're the highest office in a county. Some of the states may already have sheriff and or a coroner in that county that has the capital in it. So that particular state may already be ahead of us and won't need to do an international public notice in that county to start off with. They can just start with phase 2. I guess it's phase 3 with phase 3 because they've already taken care of the phase 1 and phase 2 for that county. So now the strategy task force is having their meetings and making these plans. The sheriff and the coroner is getting lined up per county. The state assemblies are getting them lined up. At that same time, where the sheriffs are getting elected and the coroners are getting elected, the peacekeeping task force liaisons and our Boyd Adams, you all are soliciting those de facto sheriffs in that county and finding out or getting them trained, finding out who are going to be those sheriffs who actually step into that constitutional office and assist us in this transference plan. That's where this is happening at this level right here. That warm handshake is what you call it. So while all that is going on there, we're coming up with our plan. We're writing it all out. One of the main or critical parts to the effectiveness of this plan is getting public interaction, public involvement, public awareness of actually what's going on. Here in tier 3, you can see I have Congress here. It says send criminal information affidavit to state senator and House rep. But what I mean with this is in phase 2, when the state assemblies are having their public meetings, at these public meetings, part of the public meeting is to inform them of the one fell swoop list of remedies that they're supposed to have, but they don't have them. Such as they're supposed to be able to own a home without paying taxes. They're supposed to have access to their credit where there's a one-to-one exchange with the Federal Reserve notes. They don't have it. We're supposed to be able to travel freely on the highways, but we have to have a driver's license. That's all that is criminal. And all that is the violation of our Bill of Rights, which is our Constitution. So we're informing the public at these public meetings of these remedies that they should have. And my idea, and this is my idea here, I was thinking to have, as we're informing the public of these remedies that you're supposed to have, now they're still not corrected yet. At these public meetings, you're talking to them, they may not be corrected yet. So you're telling them, this is the remedies you're supposed to have, but you don't have them, and this is a crime against you. What you need to do is write out all of the criminal infractions against you, such as all the ones I just mentioned, and we're gonna add a lot more that that's not on that list. write it out and let your governor know, let your secretary of state know, let your county sheriff know that these crimes are being committed against you. And you want something done. You want some remedies to these crimes that's being committed against you. Let your congressman know, because these people are already still not status corrected, but they still supposed to have these remedies. They don't know that they're supposed to have them. They don't know that they've been that their status have been misrepresented. So the purpose of this part right here is to get the awareness in the people's mind that these things you're supposed to have, you don't have them, and this is what you need to do in order to get a remedy for them. And that's where, as I know, those political offices in the de facto, the senators, the governors, the congressmen, they, from my experience, they listen when you put stuff in writing. If these people start piling things on their desks, this is the public pressure I'm talking about. They start piling these things on their desk of what they've become aware of now, then they'll be more apt to take notice, even to listen to us at that point. Also, while we have that public pressure going and people are sending in this affidavit of criminal information is what I just called it, for them to let the senators and the reps know what's going on, that now I know what you're doing. You need to fix this. My other objective with this is to get in the news. Once you put letters on the senator's desk, on your house, your US rep's desk, the news start coming to you, and they'll start wanting to know what's happening. What is all these letters? Who are these people that call state assemblies? What is this criminal warring against the Declaration of Independence? What you mean we're not free? The news will start coming to you, and we'll start getting that conversation out in public. And that's one of the things I think is necessary for us to get the recognition that we need as the American government. Not only are we trying to get recognition from our employees, we also are trying to get recognition from the American public. These people are voting in droves for a shareholders election. They don't even know that or what that actually means. So I'm trying to get the conversation started about what your rights are and how they're being trampled and what is a crime. They don't know that these things are crimes. That's how I pose to get the American public involved. Now, and I'm still in tier 3 right here, as the liaisons and the continental marshals, as they're having a sit down or trying to have a sit down with the governor, secretary of state, and the county sheriff, de facto county sheriff in that county, as they're addressing them, trying to get a sit down with them. What we're going to do is let them know what the crimes are that's taken place in their county that they don't even know. It's the same ones that we just told the public. But because they are officers, as I understand it, if they don't abide and provide these remedies to the people, then they, in their office, is committing treason. Well, since the federal level have already done it, they will be misprision of treason, I think. And the other list of things a list of crimes that they would be guilty of. We would let them know that at this point. Just letting them know is what we're doing. At the same time, those list of remedies, I'm suggesting that each remedy gets a sheet, a declaration, or a notice, or however we want to say it, but each sheet, Federal Reserve, the Federal Reserve System is a criminal system. You know, I use that word a lot because I'm on this crime thing, because we have to stop this crime from happening. So the Federal Reserve gets a sheet. The Secretary of State and driver's license gets a sheet. The debt credit system where Federal Reserve notes are non-negotiable instruments gets a sheet. Mortgages gets a sheet, and all this loaning out our own credit for the bank system, all that gets a sheet. What I mean a sheet is we say what the institution or what the crime is. We say how where it is in their codes where they're supposed to have given it to you, but they didn't. And then we say what the remedy is, how we're going to institute or get it executed on your behalf, and what you need to do in order to get access to it. One of them is you need to correct your status for one thing. Some things you don't have to correct your status to get, which is, I know in the territorials, some of the monies that they done paid, they wasn't supposed to pay either. So they get that because they are territorial and they was overcharged. And I would like it to be separate sheets because I want to arm the public with their own respective things that they may be dealing with. One person in the public may be dealing with a mortgage. Another person may be dealing with a driver's license. The other person may be dealing with something else. So they can take one of those sheets of directives that we put out to that particular department and say, hey, I'm supposed to have this remedy. What's happening? Why am I being charged this? I want it to be something that everybody in the public can use at whatever stage they are. Because for instance, birth registrations, that's illegal. That shouldn't even be happening. Even though your status isn't corrected, we as the American government need to make that go away. And if there is no reason for birth registration, there is no lawful legal, unless I'm wrong, there is none. So even if they're status corrected or not status corrected, they should not have to register a birth or for titles to your property. A title system should only be for those, as I understand it, those who are residents here. Now, if they are calling themselves residents, they just don't know that they're not a resident. We need to tell them. And the title system needs to be narrowed down. They shouldn't be able to have a title on every property in our country. That just should be done away with. And if there is a title system that the territorials need to have, we need to separate that. So things like that, I want to get down to what we're supposed to have, what laws are already in place that should be implemented, but are not being implemented. That's what each of the sheets are supposed to be for. And everybody in the public can pick whichever sheet, whichever topic that affects their life and go to work and try to get their remedy for it. As we're trying to sit down with the governor and sit down with the Secretary of State, the public is applying the pressure to try to get those officers to sit down with us, because we already know how difficult that's going to be. That's all in tier 3.
Is this a good time for a question?
Yes, you can ask your question.
Okay, so, well, I had a couple of comments about the previous pages that we looked at and just some comments about the campaign in general. So I just wanted to say this is fantastic, Louise. This is very well laid out, and I really appreciate you going to the trouble of getting us started down this road. So I'll try to be as constructively critical as I can.
Thank you.
And part of this is based on my experiences and trying to explain this to people. So every time I have some friends I go out with on Friday night, and it seems like every time we get on this topic, some of those relationships I've exhausted the subject. They don't want to talk about it until I have that prepaid, prosperity card in my hand. I'm paying for stuff. But other than that, they don't want to listen to it. And then, and then I have another friend And I can tell his girlfriend wants to listen. It's funny. She's a Chinese woman living in Great Britain, and she is all about this. She knows everything, what's going on. But her boyfriend, an American, doesn't want to hear any of this. And he's nice, but his eyes just gloss over. And so I kind of know when I'm pushing the envelope when I just need to be quiet about it. But a lot of them, and this is my family too. So really, it's just my mother and one of my sisters is kind of on board with it, and the others they just avoid it altogether. And we're conservative family, so it's not like we're off in the far left and we hate Trump and any mention of any American government or it's they're not like that. But they think it's hopium, so they don't want to listen to it. And so I wanted to make this point, and I'm sure that the Federation already knows this, but the sooner we get that prepaid credit to some people, that's the only thing they're going to listen to. And then they'll switch on their ears and they may start to listen. But the other thing I've noticed, and the other part about the prepaid credit is that right now I'm spending 45 hours a week working for the man. So I have to, in the evenings I spend because I'm passionate about education. So I'll sometimes stay up until 2 in the morning writing educational materials because I know that the storm is coming. I know that people are going to be correcting their status in droves, and we only have 8 volunteers on Oklahoma. So we're definitely going to be swamped. And so what I'm trying to figure out is how do I have to get people. We have a ton of American corrected, American state nationals on Oklahoma who have told us to stop contacting them until we have the prepaid credit. In my opinion, that's embarrassing, but that's the situation as it is. And I'm learning, and I'm kind of a student of how do I communicate with people that don't believe what I'm saying and they don't want to listen to me. And I'm expecting that I'm going to receive a more hard version of that with our state officials. Because it's only people that wake up, they're kind of awake and they think something's wrong. Someone needs to do something about this. Then they'll listen to you, right? But they only go so far. So these are the things that are turning over my head as I'm reading your campaign, and I'm thinking, how do we make this happen? And so I see the first challenge is in motivating the corrected nationals that we already have to just help out with this effort. Like we have these conversations in our General Assembly meetings where they're like, Bart, can you send out this notice? And I'm like, I'm busy writing educational materials and I'm focusing on outreach emails. I don't have time for that. And so our coordinator, she'll do it. Right. And then maybe someone else will pitch in. And another guy, he got a little, he got proactive, is really, really encouraging. He was like, man, I just needed to do something. So he's actually sending out all of the notices, the international notices to sheriffs. So he'll just update on us the various sheriff in their county that he sent it off to. I think he sent 15 so far. And we have 77 counties in Oklahoma. So that's the kind of action I like to see. And I'm trying to think as an outreach coordinator, how am I getting more people's help? So I see I can tell already that our next, I need to schedule a be just me on the outreach committee. It has to be all the volunteers, even our recorders, just so that everybody knows what's going on and we can pitch in little ways here and there. So that's number one. Number two is how to communicate with people that don't want to listen to you. I think that it might, and this is a small thing, but I think it might be helpful for us to have some more discussions about how to communicate with people professionally, incompetently. So I'm not in, if I have an audience that wants to hear what I say, then I enjoy being a teacher or an instructor in that kind of environment. If I'm in an environment where I've got a room full of people that are just waiting for me to stop talking and they don't want to listen and they think that I'm a little, then to me, that's really tough because, and I've done this with a highway patrolman. I sent you that video. I don't share that video a lot with people because it's kind of embarrassing because really, I didn't accomplish anything with that conversation with him, except for I grew a spine. I became more confident. But for me, that's a frustrating exercise because if I knew in the beginning that that I was not going to get anywhere with that highway patrolman because he was on his game. He was like, well, everybody, all drivers in the state of Oklahoma have to have a driver's license, right? I'm like, I'm not a driver. I don't live in the state of Oklahoma. I'm traveling my private car. You know, that got nowhere. It was like, phew, right over his head, right?
Mhm.
And in those situations, it does me no good to get frustrated. And so I'm looking at the worst case. Now, of course, you get a good apple every now and then. You get, and I believe that this guy, I believe he's a good guy, and he's just trying to obey the orders of his superior. But what I've given up on is changing someone's mind in one conversation. That's not happening. So, and if I'm going to involve, you know, obviously I need to get all these other, you know, participants, I think it'd be appropriate to properly prepare them with expectations because one of our guys, he summed it up really well because 3 men, and this is interesting. It is only the men on our assembly who have had what we refer to these incendiary events because, and I think there's a difference between, you know, generally speaking, the way that men and women communicate. And as working as an engineer, in a meeting,
Uh-oh, did they lose Bart again? Is that just me?
I don't have any patience to listen to somebody talk about something that isn't true. And so I end up having that same communication style when it comes to common law, which is technically appropriate, right? But it is zero interpersonal skills. It doesn't work with people. So these men on our assembly, they go out thinking I've corrected my status, and therefore the state is going to listen to me, and they find out in a harsh way that they don't. And then it's incredibly angering. And then a lot of men are left, you know, with their hat in their hand and they're thinking, well, that didn't work. And they're very angry, very angry. And so I see a need in communication among state nationals because we're already angry because we've read this information. And now we're trying to communicate with what we perceive to be a hard-headed state officer. And we're trying to figure out, how do I get it into his thick skull that I'm under common law and he's my employee? So and that's not a good approach. But then you got the state officer, and he's just a good guy doing his job, but he's been thoroughly indoctrinated. And if you step on his pride, that's not going to help. So I've learned that there needs to be some diplomacy, and there needs to be some communication skills sharing to learn. I'm not even sure I'm qualified emotionally to be the guy that goes to the Capitol, because I'm just like, and one of the little things that really gets me angry, which to color the picture, is whenever I hear about the you know, Hurricane Helene, right? And the other hurricane that went in North Carolina. So when that happened, immediately in the back of my head, I'm thinking, okay, we figured out that it was an artificial storm that was developed. Well, why aren't the people that planned this being hung or shot?
That's what I'm saying.
Okay, so, but and a lot of guys are like, I see these posts on Telegram, which, by the way, Louise, I would, I think it's a good idea for you to get on Telegram because there's a lot of communications that happen on the TASA outreach group, the think tank group, that would really help this particular project move forward faster, because there's a lot of people on Telegram for that particular group. But so what the conversations that happen in Telegram are these guys, they're like, what? Because you can tell they're newly woken up, and they're like, well, what's going on? Why isn't somebody fixing that? I mean, that's usually the first thing that goes in their mind, is like, okay, we identified the problem. You know, why aren't the you know, the what is it, FEMA? Why aren't the FEMA officials being arrested if they're stealing stuff? And it's almost unbelievable. Like,
Yeah.
anyway, so there's a lot of communication, and I view communication as being, I mean, 90% of it is nonverbal. And I think a lot of men are very angry, especially if they're newly woken up, and we come out of an American, a U.S. citizen culture that's very traumatizing. So we don't know how to communicate. I'll just be the first to say that I have a hard time. I mean, my loved ones, my friends, I'm a decent communicator, but somebody, a stranger who is indoctrinated in another way and he thinks he has authority over me, my communication skills are very small. And I think we need to figure that out. We need to figure out, and I like your idea of the multiple documents that we can hand, but I think this is going to take a lot of internal training, for lack of a better word, and teaching people how to approach this subject. And I liked what you said, that all we're doing is giving out the information, because I just don't see the sheriff saying, yes, sir. What else would you like to tell me to do? I don't really see him saying that. I see him looking at me, and if he's a good guy and he's honorable, he's going to give me the time of day and he's going to listen. But it's going to take him a month to process before he decides that he's going to recognize, like I can give him all these notices and he's just going to throw them in the trash if he does, especially if he doesn't like me. If he likes this other state national, he may listen to what he has to say. But if he doesn't like me, he's not going to listen to me. And the other suggestion I wanted to put out there was, when we're serving these notices, I think it's best to, I'm about ready to tell everybody in Oklahoma to start, like every newly corrected American state national, to send off that international notice to their particular county sheriff. I'm going to start telling them to do it up front. As soon as they correct their status, they send it off to the U.S. Secretary of State, that documentation, declaration of political status, but they also send it to the sheriff and maybe the sheriffs in surrounding counties, because that'll be the forward pressure that we start applying. But I also am starting to suggest that they get them served by a process server. And the reason why is that I've learned in doing due process, whenever I'm preparing to go to court, because that's how you put your money where your mouth is. So I'm not just like this Oklahoma highway patrolman. I wasn't merely sharing my opinion with him. I was telling him, you're engaged in a crime and you've committed the crime of personage against me, and I consider this to be a wrong. And if this continues for the next year, which I'm being really generous about that, then it's going to be a trespass. And if it doesn't work, then if we can't settle this in the private, I'm going to invite you to my common law court of record. I'm going to give you one last opportunity to tell the court why you believe that you have not committed a trespass against me. And if you still don't give me right, you see, I'm going, I have a plan.
Yeah.
But right now we can do all that, but we don't have it. Let's say that our sheriff is dragging his feet. We've got 77 sheriffs in Oklahoma, so possibly a few of them will get on board pretty soon, right? But if we don't, I'm not speaking softly with a big stick in my hand, right? As FDR, well, not as Theodore Roosevelt said back in the day. I don't have that. I'm just a guy giving information, and I think we need to keep that in mind. That anyway, I yield because I've talked way too long, but I just wanted to share my thoughts.
Okay, Bart, thanks for your thoughts. And that brings us to this part right here, where I got yes and no. You see where I have yes and no? Yes, they're going to sit down and have a conversation with our continental marshal, our liaison, or whoever else is in that group. Or no, they're not going to sit down and have the conversation. And you see, I have three groups of papers set here. That means you're going to have to try and talk to them and make more than one effort to talk to them. We must make whatever effort possible and be patient. I don't know the limit of how patient we should be, but the objective is to sit down and have a conversation, not send them a notice, take them a notice and sit down and talk to them about the notice. The problem I'm seeing, and I've seen for 20 years, is I'm fighting with the traffic cop on the road. But my problem is not with the traffic cop on the road. My problem is with the Secretary of State office, who told the traffic cop on the road what law is, and that's not the law. I'm trying here in my resurgence project is to go up to the top of where the problem is. Just like Bart, when you mentioned Helene, we know how it happened. We're trying to rescue all these people and help, restore everybody. I want to know who is arresting those people who caused the thing, because it's just going to happen again. It happens every time there's an election. Some false flag happens. I want us to get, as the American government, this is what our focus needs to be. I know we don't have all the manpower, but we have to get out there and get in the public awareness. We have to get in the news. We have to sit down and show our faces in front of these de facto officials that we are real and we are serious about what needs to go on. We sit down and have a conversation. Can you imagine having a problem with your spouse or your partner and y'all just silent? That's what I call passive aggressiveness. If I send you a letter and you don't respond back, that's passive aggressive. We've
That's
been
also-
having that type of situation for forever.
That's
We
also
have-
dishonorable.
If we are the employees, they're the employers, you have to have a conversation. How are they going to do their job? And we'll give them the benefit of doubt that they want to do their job, but they haven't been doing it. But we haven't been here doing our job either. But now we're showing up and we want them to show up too, respectfully, toe to toe. We want to have a conversation. So they either, yes, they're going to sit down and have a conversation, or no, they're not going to sit down and have a conversation. And we've got to get real about that. And it's time to start taking some names. It's time to start letting the public, in their awareness, letting them know the officials, the British territorial officials, said that to you, that your Declaration of Independence means nothing. You're still my subject. Of course, we won't say it that way. Some of you might not, I might. But anyway, the American people don't know that they're still British, they're British subjects. And we might have to use some of these terms that they've learned in history class, Brits and Tories and all these terms. That's what you are. The Declaration of Independence don't apply to you. You have no Bill of Rights, but you're supposed to. So if they sit down and have a conversation on the left here, we sent the notice, we told them the required of the, we told them what we're going to require of them. We want restitution for all Americans in our one fell swoop. We want a timeline of action of how this is going to be rolled out. We're going to re-educate the government employees of how they're supposed to be interacting with the American state nationals. How they are supposed to interact with their own territorials, we have nothing to say about. However, unless it's unlawful, some unlawful thing, they're killing people, even though it's their British territorials, they can't kill people on our land like that. So we have to re-educate them or educate the county sheriffs on how they are supposed to respond or interact with the state nationals. Government agencies that we don't need, we need to repurpose them. This is what I think. These are my thoughts. Repurpose all those government agencies that we don't need to be mediation agencies. But all this garbage that they've been putting in our water, in our air, the electrical warfare with the 5G and all that, we can repurpose all those agencies to mediate all that damage that they've been caused. They can still have a job, just get educated on doing that. Raise our civil peace flag on the state capitol buildings. These are the things we're telling those who wants to sit down with us and have a conversation. Where this is what we're telling them we want to do. Bifurcate every government building. Your territorials, you can have that place over there. The American government is going to have this place over here. These are our offices. You can have those offices. The state trust, they shouldn't have one. That's ours. We have to diplomatically, tactfully convey this to our employees. Yes, we're going to have to learn how to do this, but it has to be done. If they sit down and have a conversation, this is the conversation we're having. If they don't sit down and have the conversation, that's going to be a whole nother type of conversation or a type of interaction. So now we're talking about treason, misprision of treason, other crimes. So now we're talking about warrants for their arrest. Even the governor and the Secretary of State. Bart, your problem is not with that officer that was on the side of the street as I was listening to that video. Your problem was with DeWine or who's the Secretary of State in wherever you are, Oklahoma.
Oh yeah, agreed.
That's who the conversation needed to be with. And that should have been resolved already before you was on the road That's what we have to do. If it's a regulation Z plate or whatever plates we got to get, or if they put something in their database to say, oh, that's an American State National, don't bother them when they show their credential card. However they got to do it. It has to happen at the top, and that authority has to trickle down to that law enforcement officer on the side of the street.
If I may make a comment about that, I think I've noticed in the first year that I corrected my status, I noticed that I had my own, what do you want to call it? My own, devils that I needed to conquer, my own struggle. It doesn't have anything to do with correcting your status, but it's really just in the way that I communicate and handle my own intimidation, like me feeling. Because when I talk to these state officers, I'm kind of at a disadvantage emotionally because those guys have an entire system backing them. And so they're not worried. They're not
Right.
worried for their safety. I am. I'm worried about keeping my job. I'm worried about being arrested. I'm worried about, anything bad that could go, anything that goes south if I offend the other guy. So if we had common law in that kind of a society, like already here, already fully everywhere, I wouldn't be worried because I would know that phone call.
Yeah. And those sheets that I talked about, there should in that for every
Okay.
topic, it should be a statement at the bottom. Those who do not abide by this is the law of the land we're talking about. The penalty is whatever that penalty is for that, whoever you submitted that to in that office, they need to know if they don't abide by this is your penalty.
Yeah.
We let
So
them know
by
that.
the way, is my internet connection kind of spotty?
It was a little bit, but I can hear you
Okay.
now. It was
Well,
in and out a little bit earlier.
So the challenge that I've seen it that I'm trying to figure out is and I think we'll figure it out is, so we've got three groups really. We've got the state officials that we're trying to win over and to win their cooperation with. We've got the general American public, mostly US citizens. We're trying to raise their awareness so they send in those notices like you're talking about. But what I also see is I'm trying to recruit state nationals to become more active. And I want to make sure that I'm giving them tools that actually function. I don't want to feel like I'm handing them a rifle. I'm like, here you go out there, right? And then they get there and there's no bullets in it. They're like, it doesn't work. What am I supposed to do, right? I want to make sure that I'm thoroughly equipping them. And I think most of that is the emotional game that we're playing. Like whenever you're talking with these guys, you need to stand your ground. You need to be competent. You need to know your stuff. You can't just walk down there because Bart gave you a document and told you what to say. You need to do some research and know your stuff. And then you need to maintain your composure. And then you need to not be offended when he doesn't listen to you. And then you need to it's like having a plan for how to deal with all these situations before you even get there. Because one thing I know about the state officers is they respect a well-dressed person with confidence. And sometimes I don't have that. Sometimes I'm not, I don't choose to dress well because I didn't think it was important, or I'm like, oh, confidence. That's just, it's, you know what I'm saying? I'm trying to figure out how to meet them on their level. But anyway, I'll stop talking. I just wanted to, I'm really excited about this.
Okay, so let me finish. I'm going to finish this up and then I'm going to take some questions. We're going to dialogue back and forth here. So they're not going to sit down. So we got arrest for crimes on the right-hand side. So this is where the governor, the state, the county sheriffs, these are people who hold offices. So they are the critical people we're trying to get cooperation from. And if they don't, we have to have some teeth behind this. In my mind, the counties have a problem with incursion on their soil from federal agencies. All these county ofs and these states of, this is a federal level. Even though we call it a county of, it's a federal franchise. The authority has, in my mind, the authority has to come from the top, from the federation level. And we have to lock hands with the state, and the state have to lock hands with the county in order to have enough authority to make that federal franchise listen. So we got to start taking names and make the public aware that their officers that they done elected are not abiding by the Declaration of Independence. Take the names down and put them on blast. No, your Secretary of State is in violation of so-and-so, so-and-so. And as we are taking these names, just like, and I got down here, just like Trump got and his predecessors got they 500,000 indictments. We need to have our list of indictments of who these people are, these public officials who are not abiding by the Declaration, and neither are they abiding by their service contract, the Constitution, and making the public aware of this, because we're going to have 80,000 or 80 million people voting for the territorial president, and those 80 million people are fighting against us. When we come out there and tell them who we are and what they're supposed to have, they're going to be holding on for dear life to what they think is right. So we need to win their trust as well. And that's why being in the news is important. We need to provide the names of those people in those offices that they are electing that are not respecting their Bill of Rights. And we need to call it for what it is. And we are the ones who's supposed to know what it is. We're the American government. So in that,
Louise,
yes.
Rave had a comment. She put it in the chat. It's kind of interesting. So maybe she can go ahead and if
Maybe
it's
we
okay
can
to
go,
break.
we can start with Rave's, because I'm pretty much finished with the end there. The end of this part was for us to get in the news and call out some names of those who are guilty of treason and misprision of treason, because they do not want to sit down. They simply don't want to sit down and have a conversation about how to get this right. Then after we finish that in that main capital county, the state assemblies can start rinse and repeat for every county in their state, trying to sit down with the county sheriffs. All right, Rave.
Okay, I just wanted to say, if we would present a registered mail notice first and let that cure for 22 days, there is actually a stamp we can use. This stamp is gold backed. It's called the Red Fox stamp. They're about $10 a piece. So we put that on the actual notice, not on the envelope we serve in. We serve them, let it cure for 22 days. And then in the in-person meeting, we can produce proof of service. So that will prove they actually received our notice along with the notice that they were served. So at that point, it doesn't matter if they want to listen. By law, they have been lawfully served. This is much like a process server costs about $150. This is gonna take, I would say about $50 at the highest end of what this would cost. So if we serve them first, and then in the meeting, we produce what we actually serve them with, we are completely covered by law. And that would be the same thing if we needed to serve them. I have come up with a when they pull us over, I have written a response to that where you don't even have to use your name. You use no identification when you send this to them. What you're asking for is for them to prove that you owe this money. And they never do, and they always dismiss it. So I have created that as to get that, to deal with any kind of citations that they say we owe them something or we're liable for anything. And I yield.
Okay. Thank you, Rave. Let me see if I can. I'm entertaining questions now. Comments, inputs.
May I? My hand's up.
Yes, I can't see you yet, but
Oh, okay. All right. Thanks, Louise. This is Nick on Michigan. So thank you. This is really spectacular what you've put together here. I can see how the ground game has to be better prepared to actually execute this. So, but the prep that you put into it is rather remarkable. A couple comments. I think Bart is off the call now, which is unfortunate because you need to speak to your target audience. Don't cast pearls at pigs. If they don't want to listen, go to those that do. And what we need is even with your postcard campaign, the educational portion is we're looking to acculturate or acculturation. That's the process we're looking at. And the better that acculturation process with those willing to listen, the better prepared and more people we have to execute this plan. The reason that the prepaid credit is such a value to us because it does two things. I have to work. In fact, I work a midnight shift. With the prepaid credit, I could go ahead and gladly quit my job and then commit to this full time, but it also addresses the scarcity fear. And what I mean by that is if the service contractors really wanted to go ahead and clamp down, you simply wouldn't be able to go to the grocery store anymore, to get foodstuffs. Then you're going to see fear like you've never seen before. Scarcity causes more panic than anything else. That's why the prepaid credit is so helpful. But really for what you're doing, the ground game, that initiative, the acculturation is what we need to do first, and we need to do it well on an assembly basis. With that, I yield. Thank you.
Thank you, Nick. Any other questions or input?
Oh, I do have some more input. This is Raveh. Okay, you mentioned about the title system. From my research, the title system is actually for the sovereign. It's the deed and the lease system that is for the resident. So once we apply our allodial title, which is basically, it's a copyright claim. So right now, the Crown system has a copyright claim over, if you're not a declared American, they have a copyright claim over your name. And they also have a copyright claim over the address, the way your home is addressed. So if you change the way your home is addressed, then they cannot claim your home. They only have an easement to the first 3 or 4 feet that are in the driveway of your home. And I did write some more notes, but I have to look through them to be able to present them. So I yield.
Okay, thanks, Raveh. Now, all these ideas, we're going to put them all on the table and see what's the best angle to come with this at. Okay, Nick?
Yeah, I just wanted to add one more thing, and it was regarding what you had said about who to speak to first, and you are correct. You want to speak to the policymakers because they are essentially at least the visible ruling class. It doesn't matter if they're patsies or not, because we can't get to the dark web of relationships behind them, so we don't see them, the real power behind them, but they are the policymakers. And then you have what's called the managerial class. Those are your sheriffs, your judges, whatnot. Everything that supports the management of government is in that managerial class. And then the last group are the enforcers. There's no point in going to the enforcers. Okay, you're not going to get anywhere with them because they're selected for the very fact that they don't even have the, well, one, they're selected for low intelligence, but also that moral relativism. Okay, they don't have or haven't grasped objective morality, and they're only taught procedure. Okay, enforce and follow the procedure, and that's what they do. So don't waste your time there. When we begin to acculturate the actual people, then the enforcers are going to get word through that way. Okay, but you go to the managerial class and you go to the policymakers, like you said, and you'll be much more effective. But you have to have the people behind you to be able to execute this, because Raveh, you'll become a targeted individual. If you're that effective with what you're.
So I've already done these things. I'm already targeted, and
Exactly.
I think I need to be clear. I am sending these notices to the head. So they have already received notice and it is gold backed, it's asset backed notice.
The people that we're talking about, the real power that the invisible power, the hidden hand, okay, they don't care. They don't care. And so what's going to happen is you become a targeted individual. Like we have 3 litigation committee members here on Michigan that are on the run. because they did exactly what you did. They took their knowledge, they applied it without the backing of the assembly, and they're all living somewhere else other than at their domicile.
You don't know what I've done. You don't know. So you
Okay.
say they've done the exact same thing because you don't know.
Okay, I just be careful. Just be careful. Don't get taken out of the game.
Absolutely. And so this is because if I could just say this is a
Okay.
part of the plan to take our country back. So in my opinion, this is not a game for pansies. I understand I have been arrested for walking down the street. So as far as being targeted, we can be targeted for anything. And this was before I knew anything. And I went into court and the prosecutor started speaking Latin. And I said to myself, I am effed because I don't know what he just said. At that point, I made it up in my mind that I would learn this system. And so I have learned the system. I have already gone through the torture of it. That is why I am so articulate in who needs to be hit first in a matter of speaking, not literally attacked, but I have spent a lot of time learning this system. So, and I'm just adding on to what Louise has already presented because it's very well organized. I just see things in it as, okay, so for the international public notice, for the postcard, what I would say, if it is possible to remove the word you and your instead and say, for this, if we say so your birthright has been stolen, since we don't know whose hands that postcard is going to end up in, we could say the Americans' birthrights have been stolen instead of saying you and your, because you and your is a word that they use in order to claim jurisdiction over something that does not exist. And that would be what I would say for the international postcard. As far as who we need to contact, of course, the sheriff, the coroner, the governor, the state secretary, and the attorney general for each state, so that he understands or she understands what needs to go out to the district attorneys, what they need to be on lookout for as far as what our next steps will be. And I was also going to say we can serve the sheriff in the state capital county of the constitutional duty of the officer and the international order that Anna has already written as the fiduciary. So they have already been converted into American officers, as the military. And if I could just add really quickly, that is why I believe the Biden-Harris administration is on this death watch to make sure that they release an executive order that lets the military know that they can kill Americans on U.S. soil. So that is because a few days prior, Anna wrote the international notice that changed the military from a mercenary battalion to an actual American military. So I understand and I appreciate, I really do, I appreciate your concern for my safety, but I'm already a target. I'm just trying to get the information out, and I yield.
Thank you, Rabbe. I'm pushing, we're pushing 624. Now, as far as follow-up, we need to schedule another meeting. I don't know what you all schedules are like. Sundays just happen to work for me. What I want us to do now is to think about what angles we can come at this at, go over the implementation guide for phase 3. It's gonna change. I've changed some stuff. It may not quite sync together now because I added some stuff and didn't change that part, but you get the gist of it. So go over that and email me if you got any more ideas, or say, hey, if we do this angle here, you can go ahead and email me. We don't have to wait for the next meeting. just communicate. And by the time we next meeting, we'll have some thoughts already on the paper. So as far as our next session, now I want to get as many state assemblies involved in these sessions as possible. Now, our PKTF Executive Director, Joe, is going to send out a launch notice. And in that launch notice, I want to ask at least for 25 assemblies to be involved in this phase 3. That's leaning more like 26, like more of the majority. I know a lot of assemblies may feel like they're not ready for something like this. I know, but I think if we come together, we can think of a way where everybody who wants to do something can do something to get the synergy level up so that we can get the momentum moving. Because things are going to happen that we don't even expect that we didn't even plan for to happen. So I just want to get as many assemblies as possible to be attending these meetings. So go back and tell your assemblies, they're invited too, not just the strategy task force members. We're here to facilitate this because we can't carry out anything. We can just put the plan together and hand it over to them and help facilitate and instruct or counsel or come back with their input and change something and come up with something better. That's what we're here for. Jessica.
Yes, hi Louise. Thank you for allowing me to talk. I just wanted to say that I know that I've noticed, I have that a lot of states haven't been proactive in the think tank process, and I would like to volunteer to help get them motivated, get them going, help them to understand, because honestly, they may not know how to do anything effectively, or maybe they're still a little scared, or they just, you know what I mean? So I just want to let it all be known that I definitely am more than willing to go in, help them out in any way, shape, or form that I can.
All right, Jessica, appreciate that. I'm gonna talk to you later, okay?
All right.
I got some ideas. Okay. When can we have another meeting, you guys? A lot of meetings are once a month, some are twice a month. This phase 3, I just want to get it down and so we can get to moving. So once a month, twice a month, once a week.
Month, just, if anybody that wants to get on the call, they could get on the call. I think it would be, because we're kind of in a state of emergency wide right now. Just my opinion, and I yield.
May I?
Yes, Nick.
Sundays are good for me. I'd like to at least be in an advisory capacity for right now, Louise, and then possibly more active going forward, but definitely in an advisory so I could review this and then send critique it, constructive criticism and such to you for further discussion later on, bi-monthly if possible, but I could also do every week. Additionally, to what I think Jesse was saying, the international outreach think tank is the one where you can be most effective if you think about it, because a lot of the preparation work is going to be necessary for the ground game there to implement all of this strategy in phases. And with that, I yield.
Okay. All right. So Sundays work okay with everybody?
Yes.
Okay. I would like every 2 weeks. I wouldn't like to go a month.
Every 2 weeks, good. It allows us to review the documents and comment and other things that we need to do as we go back and forth for development.
November 10th, 5 p.m. 5 p.m. Eastern. That's 2 weeks Sunday. All right. November 10th, 5 p.m. Eastern. Eastern. Any other comments or anything else, Jessica?
Yeah, sorry, I don't know why that happened again, but as Rob was saying, that we are definitely in a state of an emergency, and as I addressed with my state on our state assembly just a week ago, is that we are going to implement every strategy we can and follow your plan, of course, but we're going to door knock, we're going to send out the postcards, we're going to get it out to every single person in the exact way, and then that follow the system, but make sure that no person in Louisiana or any other state is left behind. We want to make sure we hit every single person.
Thank you, Jessica. I need to get with, Anna still need to get back with me to just give me the final approval for phase 1 and phase 2 so we can go ahead and launch that part. I'll be reporting on that in the think tank. All right, that's all I have. Communicate with me back and forth. My email is on the documents there. Download every document there because it's going to be referred to as you go over the implementation guides. And that will be all. I will see you all next time. If I don't get an email from you. Thanks for everybody for coming, okay?
Thank you.
Y'all be
Have a
safe.
good night.